My wife Cheryl and I desperately hope that our story, along with others that you will hear today, and I'm so proud of the teens and the young adults who you will hear from today, that they have the courage to come forward and talk with you personally. I wish our son could, he cannot. We lost our 13-year-old son Matt in the summer of 1997. He died after a psychiatrist we did not know gave him 3 sample bottles of a pill we had never heard of for a perceived illness that his doctor could only guess at. He said, "Take these for a week. Call me back when you know how Matt is doing." Matt didn't have a week. He became agitated on the pills. He did not sleep. He did not eat. He could not sit still. That night, a Sunday, before leaving on vacation, after taking his 7th Zoloft tablet, he took his own life. This is important for you to know. Matt hung himself from a bedroom closet hook, barely higher than he was tall, to commit this unthinkable act, something he had never attempted before, never threatened to any family member, never talked about. He was actually able to pull his legs up off the floor and hold himself that way until he lost consciousness and forced himself to leave us.
My son Brian Story was 17 years old in 1997. Our family doctor diagnosed him with severe depression. He took blood to check for drugs or any medical condition. He found neither. He gave me 14 Zoloft pills and said come back in 2 weeks. He never told me they had side effects, and he even said if a person is drinking or doing drugs, that Zoloft works well with them. 5 days later, my son killed a woman. The news media called my son the All-American boy, and he was. He's now serving life without parole. 6 months later, another boy at my son's high school, Jeff Franklin, 17 years old, on Prozac, took an axe to both his parents and 3 of his brothers and sisters. Both his parents died. He is serving 2 life sentences. This is not a coincidence. There is a common denominator. Teenager, severely depressed on an SSR antidepressant. What is scary is that you're only hearing from a few of us that this has happened to, and there are a lot more out there.
My name is Jamie Tierney. I was 14 years old when I was prescribed 75 milligrams of Effexor for migraine headaches. I took this for about a year. At the time, the drug lost its effectiveness, and my doctor doubled the dose. For the next 9 months, my life as I had known it was gone. I thought daily about suicide and hurting myself. I felt void of normal emotions. I was so belligerent, agitated, and filled with hate. Hate for my family, my friends, and most of all, myself. Rage consumed me. I felt trapped. I said and did things I never done before and never would do now. I had little control and little inhibition. I apologize. It was as if I was watching a movie and some villain was destroying all the relationships around me. I spent my time alone and viciously fighting with my parents. They would ask what was wrong and what had happened to me. I could not answer them because I did not know or understand myself. I was terrified. I thank God my parents knew that wasn't really me and continued to search for answers. They found the answer to my uncharacteristic behavior. It was the Effexor my neurologist had prescribed for my migraine headaches. I was not, repeat, not prescribed this drug for depression. I've had no history of depression prior to or after I was off the Effexor. And for me, this drug caused the very symptoms it's supposed to alleviate. Effexor took 3 years from me, and I will never get them back. The horror of what these drugs did to me is ineffable. These drugs are destroying lives everywhere. I implore you to please protect the children from these drugs.
My name is Amy Coburn. I've flown here from Salt Lake City, Utah at my own expense. I'm here on behalf of my father, myself, and my family. I'm sorry. My father's name was Wayne Coburn. Most people remember him as a man full of life and willing to help anyone in need. I remember my dad I'm sorry. As a man who loved his family very much and was very loved in return. A man full of ideas and hope for the future. But like many people, he found he got a little down in the wintertime. He was diagnosed with seasonal depression without suicidal tendencies. And when I was 13 years old, he was put on Paxil. 3 weeks later, he pulled his car into an old factory garage, started his engine, and there waited until he died of carbon monoxide poisoning. This naturally shocked me and my family, and we all had a hard time coping with his death. I started going to a counselor to work through my grief, and I was put on Paxil, the same drug my father was on. I started acting differently then very soon after. I started having suicidal thoughts, mood swings. I was fighting with my friends, and the one thing my mom noticed is that I wouldn't talk about how I was feeling. The only thing she could get out of me was, "I'm fine, leave me alone." 6 weeks after I was put on the drug, I stayed home from school, wrote my goodbye letters, and swallowed a cup full of poisonous bathroom cleaner. I immediately got scared and ran to my neighbor's house. She called 911, and luckily I survived and I'm standing here today. We soon found out that we weren't the only ones who had problems with these drugs. Hundreds of families have lost people they love because they had no idea the effect they could have on a person's mind. All me and my family want are warnings on these drugs.
Thank you.
My son, Jacob Williams, was born on October the 15th, 1986. Jacob was an exceptional athlete who participated in football on both the varsity and junior varsity football teams in his school. In September of 2000, Jacob experienced a loss of interest in his school activities. He maintained his interest in football, however, there was a conflict with his grades and his attendance. As a result of this issue, his father and I attended a conference at his school on October the 11th, 2000. With various representatives from the school administrator suggested that Jacob may be depressed and that we should seek medical help. I contacted Jacob's pediatrician and made an appointment for 3:45 that afternoon. On October the 11th, 2000, his pediatrician prescribed 10 milligrams of Prozac, which was increased to 20 milligrams 3 weeks later. Shortly after starting the initial dose, Jacob began to complain of having strange dreams, which he had said were bad. Shortly after the doses was increased, I began to notice an aggressive behavior which had not been there before. Jacob also became destructive and destroyed some of his favorite things. His friends would later tell me they had noticed the same behavioral change. He also showed a verbal aggression and short temper which had not been present before. When questioned about this behavior, he stated, "I don't know what is making me do this." At that time, I thought this could be a part of normal adolescent behavior and did not pursue the matter any further. On December the 5th, 2000, I discovered Jacob's body hanging from the rafter in our attic. He had hung himself with his own belt. Our ladder was placed on the ladder leading up to our attic, thanking us for giving him 14 years of a happy life. Something had to have gone horribly wrong in the thinking process to have brought this about. Had I known that this was a potential side effect, suicide, I would have never allowed my son to take the drug Prozac. Thank you.